Welcome to New Madison, Unitarian Universalist. Another hot and sticky day. We'll see how the weather goes. I didn't find anything on the email. Did anybody get an email? So Mike must be busy somewhere, something going on. And I've been busy. I worked on in Trenton, Ohio. I had to go down and go door to door for 4 hours. It's too hot to do that. So, but it is interesting thing to do it to work trip along. So anyway, I didn't get a chance to check that to see what was filed on the internet. So I'll try and correct that in the future. Do we have anything for announcements? I don't think there's anything we have to do. So, all right. Prelude, My Heart Standing Still. Is that what it is? Okay. We are talking about today servant leadership. I started yesterday with this on our governor to see what he has said and what his example was as far as going into a servant leader. So then I did a little background on service leader coming from Christianity. So I wandered all over the place. So that's what we're going to talk about, servant leadership. And our first scripture, not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to be great among you, you must be your servant. And whoever wants to be the first must be slave of all. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for others. That's Mark chapter 7, verses 43 to 45. Our chalice lighting, prayer on the eve of the election by Tess Bogberger. Instead of a school gymnasium, red, white, and blue curtains hang along a string of voting booths with some voters visible. Spirit of wisdom as we prepare to elect new citizens to lead us in our communities, towns, and cities, in our counties, states, and our heart-torn nation. Grant us wisdom and discernment so that we may choose those of peaceful heart, of competent mind, and of servant spirit. Spirit of the harvest, help us to winnow the grain from the chaff and to reap the legacy of freedom. Our founders plant us for all of us. Help us to gather together as one people, united in concern for this country, founded upon such promising ideals. Spirit of healing, granted that we may bridge the breaches that have opened between us, Help us to understand one another, to listen to the stories of who we are, and to find common ground on which we can move forward together. Amen. Hymn is number 6, Just as Long as I Have Breath. What is possible between us? I can disagree with your opinion, but I can't disagree with your experience. And once I have a sense of your experience, you and I are in relationship, acknowledging the complexity of each other's position, listening less guardedly. The difference in our opinions will probably remain intact, but it no longer defines what is possible between us. Joys and concerns. One of their characteristics of servant leadership, you can see here the pawns in your chessboard, but the shadow of the actual servant leadership is the king of the chess setup. Right, joys and concerns. Once again, I have not heard of anything else, but there are plenty of our past attendees who are no longer with us. Hopefully they are doing well. If anybody needs any help, we ask them to let us know. No real changes. In the Ukraine, things are as bad as ever. No improvements. The Ukrainians are no longer shooting down the launchings from Russia. They do not have the missiles left over. Actually, everybody, even the United States, is running out of defensive missiles all through the Middle East. So we are facing a new situation in the United States' position in the world. We have to see what happens with that. Israel, basically, we're proceeding on the same progress that we have before. More and more is being destroyed. More people are being abandoned. There has been no improvement, and there has been no savior for all of these people who are suffering. We don't have any other. We have all our still natural disasters. We have fire. We have flooding. We have tornadoes. Nothing is being done to improve any of those. We did have high winds and actually lots of rain in this area. We had 3.5 inches last week in in a 2-hour period, which was pretty amazing. Watched the driveway, my gravel driveway up to the barn, has big ruts run through it. I'm going to have to bring in some stones, so number 5 stone sized. Right, if we have nothing else, we will light this last candle for those joys and concerns that have been raised but not shared with each of us. Children's story, let me go to, we'll come back to this one. I don't know if this is going to work or not. Let's see. Didn't have a chance to go through it before.
In chapter 13 of the Gospel that bears his name, the Apostle John depicts an extraordinary scene among the disciples, one in which John said that Jesus now showed them the full extent of his love. Seems like an important lesson. Picking up with verse 3, it reads, Jesus knew that the Father had put all things under his power, and that he had come from God and was returning to God. So he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around his waist. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet. Foot washing. Now, there are some Christian traditions that practice foot washing as one of the ordinances of the church, putting it right up there with baptism and communion. I'm glad I'm not part of one of those traditions. I suppose it's sort of weird and gross, but it really isn't that. I'm glad we haven't ceremonialized foot washing, because I'm confident we would miss the point since we really lack the cultural context. We don't need foot washing these days because, well, we have socks and shoes and boots and such. And perhaps more importantly, we have sewer systems. Furthermore, we don't usually have livestock roaming the streets. In those days, foot washing was essential and gross. It was work reserved for the lowest of the low. And that is the work that Jesus took on in that moment. Work reserved for the lowest of the low. When he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and returned to his place. Do you understand what I've done for you? He asked that. You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. Now that I, your teacher and Lord, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. Jesus, the most powerful and respected among them, among anyone, of course, willingly served his followers in the lowliest way. That is the example he set for us. How are we doing with that? In our contemporary church settings, what might be the equivalents? Stacking chairs, vacuuming, cleaning the urinals? What would that look like in our workplaces, in our families? Our org structures are often built to best serve the one or the few at the top. How do we make them look good? How might we make them most effective? It seems that Jesus turns our notions of leadership upside down. He has a way of turning so many of our notions upside down. If we're going to be followers of Jesus, then we must continually and fervently follow Jesus in this way. Serving others by willingly taking on even the most lowly tasks.
As you know, I am a Church of the Brethren, and we do the foot washing ceremony. This guy went sideways on the foot washing ceremony. He said it was something that they did in the time of Christ. When there was horse manure or donkey manure on the street, people wore sandals, their feet were dirty. It was the lower echelon, these servants that were supposed to wash feet. But he totally missed the point of why Jesus Christ washed the disciples' feet. Servant leadership. The whole point is Jesus is serving other people and doing it as the lowly. And it is done an example by the Pope washed the feet of female prisoners. And he actually goes one step farther. He kissed the feet that he washed. That is not part of the Church of the Brethren's prescription, part of the activities in the Church of the Brethren. But they do, Church of the Brethren, each strap on or tie on a towel around your waist. Each person washes the feet of the person next to them in a circle. and every person washes the foot of someplace else. In other words, even the Pope, if he was with us, would have his feet washed. It is to show that no one is better than anyone else, that we are there all to serve whoever is the person who is in need for whatever reason. Part of that goes along with the conscientious objection. I kind of fall a little bit on the edge of that. I do not believe in violence, but if I had a chance to protect people from violence, I would have to use violence to protect other people from violence. A true conscientious objector would not use violence in any case, which is a step too far to prevent someone from being held to account at any reason. So, servant leadership is not about authority, status, or personal gain. It is about serving others first and guiding by example. The Bible emphasizes that true greatness comes from humility and selfless service. Whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, and whoever wants to be first must be your slave. Matthew verse 20, verses 26 to 28. In ancient Israel and broader the Near East, people traveled on dusty roads wearing sandals, so washing feet was a practical necessity, usually performed by servants or people of lower status. So in Jewish tradition, cleanliness was also tied to ritual purity, and washing feet could prepare someone for sacred spaces in the Bible hub. Most significant example is John chapter 13, verses 1 through 17, where Jesus during the Last Supper knelt and washed his disciples' feet. A shocking reversal of roles. The Lord and teacher took the place of the servant. Jesus said, I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. The ultimate service or servant leader. There were others. Moses led Israel with patience and humility, interceding for the people and putting their needs above his own. Joseph served faithfully in every circumstance, from slavery to governance, using his gifts for the benefit of others. The 10 principles of servant leadership, like many other ideas, has been utilized by business leaders, which is interesting because they have taken an idea of servant leaders and transformed it into a business operation, which is a little bit interesting. First point, listening. Traditionally, service leaders have been valued for their communication and decision-making skills. Servant leaders must reinforce these skills by making a deep commitment to living intently to others. Empathy. Servant leaders strive to understand and empathize with others. If you can picture this, try to picture this with a corporate leader. There are people preaching servant leadership in business. Not a lot, and it is not an example we see a lot, but it is something that exists. Healing. Learning to heal is a powerful force for transformation and integration. One of the greatest strengths of servant leadership is the potential for healing oneself and others. There is something subtle communicated to one who is being served and led, if implicit in the compact between the servant leader and the led, is the understanding that the search for wholeness is something they both have. Awareness, general awareness, especially self-awareness, strengthens the servant leader. Persuasion, servant leaders rely on persuasion rather than positional authority in making decisions. Servant leaders rely on persuasion instead of giving orders. They seek to convince others rather than to coerce compliance. Conceptualization, servant leaders seek to nurture their abilities to dream great dreams. The ability to look at a problem from a conceptualizing perspective means that one must think beyond day-to-day realities. Foresight is a characteristic that enables servant leaders to understand the lessons from the past. Stewardship. Robert Greenleaf, who is the genius behind this, the business perspective, viewed all institutions that were one in which the CEOs, staff, directors, and trustees all played a significant role in holding their institutions in trust. Commitment to the growth of people. Servant leaders believe that people have an intrinsic value beyond their tangible contributions as workers. Building community. Servant leaders are aware that the shift from the local communities to large institutions as the primary shaper of human lives has changed our perceptions. And now we are going to, the reason I started this was our study of our Governor Richard Michael DeWine, born January 5th, 1947, which makes him 79, almost 80, is an American politician, attorney, serving as the 70th governor of Ohio. A member of the Republican Party, he served as the 50th Attorney General of Ohio, as United States Senator from 95 to 2007, and in the House of Representatives from 83 to 91. So we have term limits, Ohio, and plus he has been defeated a couple times, but he has been involved in state government from the time he graduated. Native of Yellow Springs, Ohio, he graduated from Miami University in 1969, Northern University College of Law in 72. He went right as an assistant prosecutor in Greene County, then prosecutor in Greene County, then to the Ohio Senate, then 4 terms as U.S. Representative, then as the 59th Lieutenant Governor of Ohio under George Voinovich. He ran to succeed Howard Metzenbaum, but he defeated Joel Hyatt, Metzenbaum's son-in-law. He was reelected in 2000, beating Ted Celeste, who was the brother of Dick Celeste. You might remember him as a governor. Seeking a 3rd term, he was defeated by Sherrod Brown by over 12 points. DeWine was elected in the U.S. Senate as a landslide in 94 during the Republican Revolution. And he was on the Select Intelligence Committees. He was re-elected in 2000 and defeated in 2006 by Sherrod Brown. He returned to politics 4 years later as the Attorney General of Ohio, and doing that, he challenged the Affordable Care Act and tackled the opioid epidemic. He challenged Obama's Affordable Care Act, and he worked against the opioid epidemic, as we all remember the problem that was going on then. He was elected in 2018 and re-elected in 22. During his tenure as governor, the 2019 Dayton shooting, if you remember the Dayton mass shooting in Dayton, the people, if you remember the meeting when the governor showed up the next day after the shooting, the people shouted in the crowd, "Do something, do something, do something." And he stated he would do something. He formed a 17-point plan to focus on ideas like increasing background checks, greater penalties for gun crimes, and an expanding scope of court-ordered treatment for those deemed to be a danger to themselves, plus red flag orders for people who were convicted of a danger to the public, like household or spousal abuse, to be red flagged, which means their guns could be confiscated. For all of those things, he proposed, how many of them were passed? 0. The Republican legislature in Ohio did absolutely 0. So what you could say is he says one thing and does not follow through anywhere. The legislation died in the Senate. Since that time happened, DeWine has said hardly anything about gun control. DeWine has signed multiple bills into law that decrease gun control, such as the revised concealed carry laws. He has decreased the concealed carry laws that they issued about the concealed carry to make it easier to do concealed carry. It used to be you could prescribe concealed carry not to be allowed in the church. The only place you can't carry concealed weapons is where?
What else?
Any government, no government, Ohio government, or county, the courthouse of any county seat, you cannot carry. So the only people who are defended from people carrying concealed carry are the people who are in government. The rest of us in churches and schools, any place else, businesses who want to prohibit concealed carry, we cannot do that. And open carry is even scarier if you have seen what happens with that. The next one is in early 2020, DeWine received national attention for his response to the COVID-19 pandemic, ordering the closure of dine-in restaurant facilities and sporting events, and delegating additional resources to elderly care facilities. We love the governor. He is not a scientist. He is not a medical doctor. Chairman of the Ohio Republican Party said he relied on her and he got it wrong. Who are we talking about? Actor. The person who was running for governor of Ohio was the medical doctor in charge. And if you have seen the ads on TV, which are blatant untruths all the way through, that her medical training was not adequate. That was in the middle of her medical training before she graduated from medical school. That's a complete lie. That she made the decision to wear masks, that she made the decisions to prohibit people from visiting nursing homes, all those things, and that's what DeWine firmly maintained. He was responsible for all decisions made in response to the pandemic, not Amy Acton. I got advice from her. I got advice from people around the country. DeWine said, I was trying to get as much information as I could about something that we did not know much about, and I made the decisions made based on that, but they were my decisions. They were not her decisions. DeWine, if you look at his history, he has served over and over. He has served the state government from the beginning of his life, clear to the end of his life. This will be the end when he retires at the end of this term. And he is fundamentally, and you can tell, he is a decent person. He has tried to be a servant leader as he progresses in his thing, but he is basically subject to what the National Republican Party wants done. And that is, instead of standing up for what is right or wrong, he caves. He has given in to what the Republican Party demands, and has given up defending the people of Ohio. That is what we are looking for in a servant leader who thinks more about what the populace needs, who thinks about who the people being served, what they need, as opposed to the end justifies the means. The end does not justify the means. Okay, I didn't get as much done on this, and let's go to. So, Mike DeWine, a nice guy. I still respect Mike DeWine, but I am saddened by the fact that he is not able to stand up for what he truly believes. When you listen to him talk, and when you listen to what he says on a daily basis for what he absolutely believes, that is something completely different as to what he officially prescribes and what he officially signs. So we would try to find someone in another aspect. That is the whole point of politics. That's the problem we're finding about politics, is the end justifies the means, where people think to get elected, and you can hear that every time you hear about politicians from all parties, not just Republicans, but also Democrats, not also Democrats, but also independents. They are told they have to do this or the other or some third thing to win the vote of everybody they are battling for, and that is the whole opposition of servant leadership. That is the whole point of staying true to what your beliefs are, and it is a struggle for everybody involved in searching for new votes to extend. And there is a question. If you don't get elected, you can't do the right thing. But what is the choice between doing the right thing and not getting elected? So it's a struggle. It's something that you have to balance between the middle. Okay, comments or questions? The more I looked into that, the less the answer and I don't have an answer. And that's kind of where I've ended up. And that's what I open it up to anybody who has a suggestion. I am still looking for the answer. What is the balance between what should be done and what can be done? There's a huge gulf between should and can. And where do you fall on that? I understand that some people see the end justifies the means, but it is still disappointing and discouraging to watch people waver back and forth depending on what the circumstances are who they're talking to. We're doing that back and forth. Went down to Trenton, Ohio. There's a data center going in down there, and it is basically shameful. The last community presentation they had down there, the city council basically had the police remove people who were objecting to what they were voting on. They had secret votes. They changed the rules in between. Anything they can do, anything the city council can do to make it easier for the data center to proceed is what is done. It is a betrayal of democracy as we would like to see democracy. All right, thanks for these. If you have anything to donate, please do. If you can send us anything, please do. We are here. The food pantries are needing more and more, not only here, but all across the United States. Food supply has been, government food supply has been cut, and the need for people has increased. So there's a real buying going on there. Closing hymn is number 109. As we come marching, 108. My life flows on an endless song.
since love prevails. How can I keep from singing? Time is still as a year. The lungs are free again. When friends rejoice, the world far and near. How can I keep from singing? Praises the song in measure while our thoughts of them are ringing. Then friends like she are not behind. How can I keep from singing?
My life flows on in endless song, a love above earth's lamentation. I hear the real, too far off hymns that hails a new creation. Through all the tumult and the strife, I hear the music ringing. It sounds an echo in my soul. How can I keep from singing? Words to live by. My life flows on in endless song. Unfortunately, we don't have anybody that can sing. That's something maybe I should have worked on when I was a lot younger. My wife has perfect pitch. She plays every instrument from drums to banjo to violin to guitar. Perfect pitch, and she never has bothered to teach me any of it. So interesting how those things go. All right, Extinguishing the Chalice by Cynthia Landrum. Be true, be well, be loving. All our lives we are in need, and others are in need of us. Singing the living tradition, we leave this gathered community, but we don't leave our connection. Our concerns, our care for each other, our service to each other, to the world, and to our faith continues. Until we are together again, friends, be strong, be well, be true, be living. Right. Postlude, It Had to Be You. It Had to Be You. All right. Our finishing photo, as is always, we did foot washing. We talked about foot washing with the Church of the Brethren today, so I threw in foot washing on a horse. The interesting thing was that's just on the left-hand side. You see what takes place when you wash a horse's foot. The reason I put this one up, does anybody see what's a little unusual about this one?
He's got a missing leg.
Yes, he only has the horse, he's lifting up the horse's leg, and he is missing his left leg, the farrier, which I assume is the farrier, maybe not because he doesn't have an apron on. But the person taking care of the horse is missing a leg, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Just to see that nobody is truly handicapped who wants to be part of care of any kind, no matter what it is. There is room for everybody. And horses are particularly good Some are good at accepting any others, and some you have to be really careful of because they are not very good at accepting others. So. All right, I've had a really busy week, and there's going to be more busy weeks coming up, so I apologize for not extending the sermon this much farther, but I could have ad-libbed it, but I was just running out of words today, so that will end our service today. Hopefully everyone is doing okay. The weather is hot, but we can get by with it. There's still coffee and donuts to be shared, and we'll see you next week, we hope.